way ahead of David Jeffries, who's been reeled in by Llewellyn, and then that Kawasaki of Mason next up and closing.
Yeah, Gary Mason, he's renowned for liking the wet. He's only a young rider, 21 years old. He obviously likes the damp conditions as well.
He does indeed. Now, if you thought that Kawasaki would be Steve Plater, wrong. Sorry, Steve was in the programme to ride, but he's concentrating on his 2 Superbike rides here today. They thought the Kawasaki wouldn't be a contender around here, and he really feels he can get somewhere in the Superbike rounds, so that's what...
Of course, the Superstock's the first race as well, so it's a big old bike to haul around the racetrack, so it tires you out a bit. With 2 40-minute Superbike races to go, it's a bit of much to do in one weekend.
It is. Now, this is the first time I have seen Christopher Mullen, number 4, the leader race. Just 17 years old, Australian, very nice young man, very confident young man. Another, he actually admits to being a Barry Sheen discovery. And an ex-dirt tracker as well, like a lot of the Aussies. Peter Goddard, Wayne Gardner came up that way, dirt tracking before they got on the tarmac.
Yeah, well, it's certainly a fantastic experience before you go road racing. We've seen a lot of great stars throughout the years come through that way. You can see as they're running through there, they're running through dry parts and then they're running onto dry lines in the middle of some fairly damp tracks.
And you can still see spray off the tyres in other parts of the track. You wouldn't want to get offline, Scott, would you?
No, of course not. These 2 are out the front on Dunlops, so the Dunlops seem to be working better in these conditions than the chasing Pirellis. The Yamahas are Jeffries and Llewellyn, they're on the new Pirellis, which is coming really good in the dry, but they don't seem to have it in these half and half conditions. Maybe they don't have enough feel.
And they're about to be Kawasaki'd as well, because Mr. Mason is now right on the tail of those 2 Yamahas. First time I've seen him ride as well, Scott. I've taken notice of him. He's doing a good job.
Yeah, the 2 Yamahas, 10 seconds behind Glenn Richards now.
That's outrageous. Glenn Richards is the second of those 2 Honda Fireblades in your picture. Now then, Scott, what do you do in a situation like this? If you're Glenn Richards, there's your teammates, 2 bike legs ahead of you. Number 1, that's a graphic shot there of the patchy tarmac. You don't put a dodgy move on him that will put you both in trouble.
No, you get back to the garage, you get a big telling off if you put a dodgy move on. Yep. So I would follow him. That would be my gut feeling at the moment. I would follow him, see what he does, and then I'll know where it's possible to pass him. But you've also got to bear in mind, once you get to 2/3 race distance, which in this race is going to be about 11 laps,
yep.
If the race gets stopped, it gets declared a result. So that's going to be in the back of his mind. Once he gets to that point of the race, he really needs to be in front, because if it gets stopped, game over.
Christopher Mullen and Glenn Richards are 3rd and 4th in the championship at the moment. Matt Llewellyn and David Jeffries lead. Llewellyn is the leader by, 19 points, I think the gap is at the top of the field. But there we are, there's what's happening. There's Vermeulen at the front. Richards, 2-3 bike lengths behind him, just shadowing him. Do you show him a wheel, Scott? Do you put pressure on him? Try and, you know...
To be fair, they're pulling away at such a rate, he doesn't need to put pressure on him. He doesn't need to get Vermeulen's pace up. Because, of course, if he can run at a quicker pace, Richards, he wants to be able to get past and pull away instantly. Yep. So if you get into a rhythm at a certain lap time, it's difficult to increase your pace. You see that a lot at world level.
You do.
So his best thing, sit behind and then just play it by ear, really.
The 2 Yamahas have just gone over the start-finish line with the Kawasaki line astern, but they are 12 seconds behind these 2 Hondas.
They're pulling out 1.5 seconds a lap, which is just phenomenal in these conditions. It's amazing.
And it's not what you see in Superstock racing either, is it normally? Because what you're looking at here is the closest to road bike racing you get. The regulations in this class, it's still got the rear mud guards on them. You know, it is not allowed to do a lot, are you, Scott?
No, you're not allowed to do it. You've got the 3 main classes here. Superbike, lots of modifications allowed, lots of suspension. It's a race bike built from the ground up as a race bike. Super Sport, you're allowed to do lots to the insides of the forks. You're allowed to change the engines a little bit, but not that much. Super Stock, you change the exhaust, you go race it.
Take the stand off, I believe, is the other, and the lights off. No glass, please. So you're looking at basically as near as you'll get to showroom boxed stock motorcycle racing. A real battleground for the manufacturers between these 2 bikes, the Honda Fireblades and Yamaha's 1000cc R1s. It's the Yamahas that are winning the war at the moment, 1st and 2nd in the championship. But this war, this battle, I mean, is being well and truly won by the Fireblades that are coming up to lap people already at half distance.
Yeah, as I said, the pack has got very split up. It's in little groups. It's very difficult to pass in these conditions because you don't want to be running offline into either the colder part of the track or, in fact, the wet part of the track around the circuit. I think I'd actually like to be in the position of Jeffries and Llewellyn at the moment, because they know they don't have to stick their necks out to win.
Yes, exactly. They are way ahead of Christopher Mullen, 67 points. That's third in the championship. He's race leader number 4. David Jeffries second in the championship, 85 points. Matt Llewellyn first in the championship, 104 points. That is after 5 rounds of the championship.
You saw him timidly going past the back markers there. The back marker had been shown the blue flag. He moved out of the way really well, but still they were a little bit nervous because they haven't got a line to change onto if they need it.
Yeah, that was Jamie Clark, number 33, the first back marker to be popped off by the rampaging Sanyo First National Hondas. And they're looking good. I mean, these bikes look like it's dry out there, Scott. It's an impressive showing. Yeah, the track is drying up. The bits that we saw at the beginning of the race, there was still lots of surface water being thrown up out onto the back straight. Now, there's no surface water being thrown up, but it's still very damp in a few places. You can see it shining there. Oh, by the way, as Keith said at the start, Andy Tinsley was involved in that crash in the first start. He was our 7th place qualifier, 6th place qualifier, I beg your pardon. He did not join the restart. He did join the restart. He's on our screens. He must have come out late. I didn't see him on the grid. He must have hammered the bars and everything straight, so he would have been fixing it in pit lane, and then you can make the start from the pit lane. Yes,
so
he didn't. I looked on the grid, Scott. He didn't take up his slot on the grid.
Which means he's come from dead last, because you're allowed out of the pit lane once the other riders have gone past, and he's up to 12th place already. Good. So that's a brave ride. That is a very brave ride indeed. There was a gap on the second row of the grid, but he is there now. Yeah, the other riders I spoke to race control, and they're in the medical centre, so I'm not too sure how they are at the moment, but they haven't had to rush anybody off the hospital. Well, that's good news, because it was an ugly crash, it really was. So now we have 17-year-old Christopher Mullen, the Australian. Over here, he was advised by Barry Sheen. He said, get over to this British National Championship. It's the place to be to make your name. And it certainly seems to be working out for him. Struggled a little bit this weekend in the Super Sport class. Obviously, both these riders ride Super Sport, so they're getting plenty of track time. Glenn Richards on the front row of the grid in Super Sport, but Vermeulen, I think, 9th qualified, so he's having a bad weekend on the Super Sport bike. Yeah, making up for it in Super Stock, though, as you can see. And Glenn Richards is looking good and smooth. He's not even given us a hint, has he, Glenn, yet, about his intentions, where and when. It's not if, it's where and when, I feel. Yeah, he's going to have a go. The racer in you comes out. He's behind Vermeulen in the championship, so he wants to finish in front of him, obviously, to try and claw back some of those points. 3rd and 4th in the championship at the moment. Yep, and that's Honda versus Honda at the front, and the gap back, it's over 13 seconds, 13 and a half seconds more like, back to the Yamaha of David Jeffries, the pole setter, who is still in 3rd place in front of his teammate Matt Llewellyn, and then the Kawasaki of Mason. Yeah, the front runners, they've slowed down a little bit. They're running in 29s and 30s. During the middle of the race, they've been running 28s. So obviously they don't need to go any faster, obviously, but Jeffries and Lennon have just eventually got into the 29s. But bear in mind, pole position, 25.79. Yeah, that tells you what's going on out there. There's also that horrible great slick of cement dust on the apex of Woodcock Bend as well. Yeah, we've also had cement dust down over the weekend at Abbey as well. There was a lot of cement on the exit of Abbey, so when it gets wet, it just brings it back up to the surface, which can make it a bit treacherous. And that's one of the slowest corners on the track. First gear, accelerating hard out of a hairpin. That's when you need as much grip as you can get it. You don't need to hit lubrication on the track, do you? There you see the two Hondas. They've lapped now number 52, Steve Allen, Yamaha R1 rider from Scotland. And I'm just trying to read these two at the moment. And I can't pick a difference, can you, Scott? It looks 2 peas in a pod, these two at the moment. Yeah, it certainly looks like Richards is a little bit smoother at the moment, but then he's following, he doesn't have to set the pace. From his point of view, if the guy in front falls off, then he'll slow up a bit. Yes, absolutely. Somebody in one of the big sand pits there as well, big deep sand pits here. Yeah, that's actually caught a lot of people out. That's, I think, on the exit of Priory, which is quite a fast 3rd gear left-hander, just before you get into the very tight left-hander at Brooklands. That's before the complex? That's just during the complex. You come into, it's the entrance to the complex. Right, you come underneath the bridge, the very fast right, 4th gear, then you sweep into the fast left Priory. It looks like a lot of people have run out of racetrack on the exit. So a pretty busy gravel track, and it's just in front of our commentary position. 3/4 distance, and still the Sanyo First National Hondas run 1st and 2nd with Chris Vermeulen given, about 1/4 of a second most time round advantage over his teammates. So this is the point, as we mentioned before, that if the race gets stopped now, this will declare the result. So Richards needs to start thinking about passing Vermeulen. Australian versus Australian at the front of the field. The invasion. Number 15 in the way, Andrew Jackson. About to, yes, he is not going to cause
any problems at all. He knew they were their big, wide old racetrack, Silverstone, lots of room.
Yeah, the only problem is we've got quite a few chicanes here, so it's line astern through those chicanes. So you can't make a pass in them. We saw he got well out of the way on the exit, so that was good of him, but can't get past through them.
Absolutely. Back markers, of course, often running their own races. There's, as long as they obey the correct etiquette, everything is okay.
Just been told by race control that all the riders that were caught up in the start line incident are all okay-ish, is the news from the medical centre. Nothing serious.